Everything that everybody loves about New Orleans is because of Black people.
You're going to get that fit. You're going to get your hair done. You're going to get your nails done. And you're going to be with your crew. And we're going to be out here in these streets freely being gay. It is the way New Orleans allows you to step out and be yourself.
Bringing history and tradition and culture together.
Right? I love that I see everything that's beautiful in New Orleans, from our food. You go to a second line.
This journey has been one hell of a roller coaster.
Respect the voodoo.
Audio Jungle.
I am the Divine Prince, Emmecca, Pan-African Spiritualist, Practitioner, Author, Advisor, Elagoon, Oloye, Hoodoo, Obeya, Bokur. I reside in this beautiful and legendary, historic Treme, New Orleans, Louisiana. So join me as I share food, music, culture, tradition, the rhythms and the flavor of New Orleans voodoo. Respect the voodoo.
Greetings, divine, all blessed, honor and respect, honor and respect, honor and respect. It is another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Voodoo 101, as you will. In 1760, the Tacky Slave Rebellion on the island of Jamaica resulted in the passage of a law targeting all forms of African spirituality. The British, along with all the other European nations with colonies in the New World, were convinced that Africans who maintained their traditional African religious
Hello?
Greetings and salutations. Elder Reggie, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Divine, I hear you now. Yeah, dropped off, but I hear you loud and clear.
How long have I been gone?
Oh, about 5 minutes. I kept asking and calling, but I wasn't getting no response.
You called me?
Yeah, no, I was like just talking over the air, trying to see what was going on.
Okay, my concern is I have no idea when I went off. And from
Okay.
my end, it looks like all three of y'all been silent the whole time.
I just came in. I was running late. I came in at 9:05.
Yeah.
Okay, and you couldn't hear me at 9:05.
No, I thought I actually sent you a text asking if it was no show tonight because I couldn't even see nobody else in the studio but me.
Yeah, I got the text at 9:08.
Yeah. Divine, you talked about Taki out of Jamaica, and then it went
Okay.
solid.
Yeah, I was talking about how in 1760 the Tacky Slave Rebellion on the island of Jamaica resulted in the passage of a law targeting all forms of African spirituality. The British, along with all the other European nations with colonies in the New World, were convinced that Africans who maintained their traditional African religious continuity were harder to enslave and control. The Tacky Slave Rebellion, the Haitian Slave Rebellion, and many other slave revolts in the Caribbean were masterminded by Africans steeped in religious practices of their own ancestors. And after the Tacky Slave Rebellion, the British passed the first anti-obeah laws that criminalized the practice of African religion. Other jurisdictions in the Caribbean followed the example of Jamaica and passed their own anti-obeah laws. These laws made it a criminal offense to practice African religion, to be found with any article associated with the practice of African religion, and to consult with anyone practicing African religion. The first anti-obeah laws in the Caribbean carried some very draconian punishments, including execution, beheading, dismemberment, banishment, imprisonment with hard labor, and floggings. After emancipation in 1834, punishments were ameliorated by practitioners of African religion, could be imprisoned with or without hard labor, albeit for shorter periods of time, or fined. In the post-emancipation period, many practitioners of African spirituality were prosecuted under the various vagrancy laws adopted by the colonial government in the Caribbean. The term obeah might have disappeared from the legal code, but new clauses criminalizing fraud were used to harass, persecute, and imprison practitioners of African spirituality. In 1980, almost 2 decades after Jamaica and Guyana pivoted to Black political rule, Anguilla became the first Caribbean island to formally decriminalize obeah in 1980. Barbados, Trinidad, Tobago, and St. Lucia followed suit in 1998, 2000, and 2004, respectively. It may come as a shock to the world to learn that Jamaica, the land of Bob Marley, Marcus Garvey, and the Rastafarian movement, debated and rejected the criminalization of obeah. It is also a scandal that it took a Hindu government in Trinidad to lead to the decriminalization of obeah and other forms of African spirituality in Trinidad. The continued criminalization of obeah in the Caribbean, notwithstanding the lip service paid to the notions of religious liberty and freedom of conscience, is a fair barometer of the level of self-hatred permeating people of African ancestry in the Caribbean. Many Caribbean islanders have adapted the same pejorative attitudes held by Caucasian colonialists vis-a-vis African spirituality. It is not uncommon to hear Caribbean islanders of the Christian persuasion parroting some of the same hogwash spewed out of their mouths of racist Caucasian Christian evangelicals. These religious copycats are quick to point out that obeah, voodoo, Orisha Shango, and the spiritual Baptists are all in league with the devil, and as such ought to be suppressed by supposed Christian governments of the Caribbean. The mere mention of obeah and voodoo is sufficient to send these overzealous Christians scurrying to their closets to arm themselves with crosses, holy water, garlic, and all other devil repellents they can find. This regrettably has led to many Caribbean people turning an unsympathetic ear and a blind eye towards the tragedy taking place on the Caribbean island of Haiti right now, so reviled far and wide for its adherence to African spiritual traditions. Caribbean governments that have refused to follow the lead of Angola, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, and St. Lucia should hang their collective heads in shame. Even the Mormons, who until 1978 refused to allow Black men into its priesthood and held that black skin was a sign of a divine curse are free to practice their religion throughout the Caribbean. It says a lot about black governments in the Caribbean that can see their way to tolerate Mormons, the People's Temple of Jim Jones, remember that, and other nefarious religious sects originating in Europe or America, but stubbornly maintain their position that Obia and African spiritual tradition and science should be legally prosecuted on their islands. Linrod Nzulu Baraka is the founder of Afro-Caribbean Spiritual Teaching Center and the author of very good book, Oreos, Coconuts, and Negro Peons, Rediscovering Our African Identity.
Mm.
So it's really curious to me how even now in so-called modern 2025, when we talk about the Maroons, we hear of Jamaica, we hear of Nanny of the Maroons, but we hear very little talk about Louisiana and the Maroon encampments in Louisiana and St. Milo and the power and authority that he held in this region for so long before they decided to prosecute and then subsequently hang and behead these Maroon leaders in our beloved Jackson Square, central visiting point for tourists and psychic readers, alike. But it's a rare conversation outside of June 19th when I myself go down to Jackson Square to honor and acknowledge St. Milo, that we hear any context, any conversation about Maroon encampments and our active participation in our own liberation in this region. But certainly these religious ideologies, so strongly held till this day by the Caribbean community, are often mirrored back in our own African American, Black American religious sectors. Anytime voodoo, hoodoo, obia comes into conversation. And I want to thank everyone for sitting through the silence. We're certainly back on now. Thank you, Joshua, for alerting me to the audio disruption. Greetings and salutations, Nina Lloyd, Daniel Neal, our faithful, and certainly D Goddess. We certainly appreciate you and yours for being present with us, and our beloved co-host, starting with our team member, New Orleans International Voodoo Day, Elder Reggie. We know him here as Green Soap. Certainly Joshua Nyland Tanner, our first priest and wild man, Queen Mother, Sister Toni Val Martinez, and our beloved guest, Bill with Shaheed, Brother Shaheed Ali. Greetings and salutations, everyone. Please come on in.
Yes, I like to open up with, yes, today the 21st, so we had the big reveal. It's the New Orleans International Voodoo Day. Yay to that.
Yay.
I once had my applause audio in place, but it's missing. But y'all get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thing. How you guys doing today?
Yes.
Wow, man, Jim. It's been a good day. Toni, I wanted to ask you something. Did you see our president over there in South Africa? Well, I guess South Africa was here. The country was here, and the conversation he had with him in the Oval Office today.
Yeah, they bum rushed him. They had him set up. They had the South African president set up. They had lies to back up what they were saying. And they showed this video of the I think it's the EFF,
Mm-hmm.
where the brother says, kill the Boer, kill the farmer. They have a song about it that they've been having since apartheid. And they still use it today as a rallying cry. And that's just like saying, they just like the Klan here in America. If that's the case, you got a group of some people that want things to be this way, and it's going against the majority of the thing. But to me, I felt like the South African president was too nice. I mean,
Yeah, I felt the same way. I feel like he was kind of nice, but he kind of. I mean, I thought it was very interesting how Donald Trump showed that video, and he asked the president of South Africa, asked, "Where was this in South Africa?" And he had no answer for him.
yeah, this
And I'm just like, how you gonna accuse somebody of something if you're not gonna present some evidence to somebody to try to help something when you don't even know the location? I'm like, you're coming with incomplete information, but you're trying to address the situation. That doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
well, we know he lying about that, and we know he gets on a lie like a dog on a bone. He hangs on to it, won't let it go until he makes everybody say they believe what he's saying, like he tried to do the reporter with that MS-13, tried to make him say that the picture wasn't doctored. I mean, we all know he has Alzheimer's, and I think he has some more psychosis to go along with that. But I mean, he just wants everybody to believe. Don't care how many people say you're lying.
Yeah.
He's going to still hold on to his reality, his lie, and everybody else is fake and everybody else is lying.
Yeah.
So now all I'm waiting for him to do is stand up at a press conference and start blowing bubbles with his mouth and piss on himself before they realize that this man got a mental issue.
Wow. Man.
I would.
He has a serious mental issue, and he's dragging us in with it.
Yeah, the country, like leading the country with that type of issue. Today it was just so prevalent. I was just like, what is he saying and what is he going to present to these people? I was concerned that it was going to be incomplete, and it was. And I was like, man, we are a nation that are known for doing things a certain way, and I think that as an executive, or the head executive officer, you should be accurate and informed, and especially when you come to a country and trying to tell them of something that was that serious of nature. Like, well, I guess that's what we voted for.
I mean, no, we didn't vote for that. They voted for that. They voted for that. And now, while everything else going on in the world, he wants the United States government to investigate celebrities who gave money to Harris for her presidential run.
Why is that?
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Mm-mm.
We got serious problems in this country that he does not see. If you look at all the places he's been, all the people he's been in contact with, all the people he's befriending were people that were kept out of the range of the United States because they weren't right. He just let 17 members of Al Chapo family move to the United States. He just sat down with the ruler that the United States government had a $10 million bounty on his head for being with a terrorist organization.
You know, Sister Toni, I think the president, I think he could be brought or persuaded with
Oh, I
nice
know
big
he can.
words and gifts. And other foreign leaders see this, and this is what they're employing. That airplane landed in Austin, Texas today. I think that was a conflict of interest.
It is. And also, you give me a $400 airplane that's going to take me $1 billion to get ready for me to ride in it.
Right.
What sense do that make?
None.
It makes somebody sense.
It makes
That's
Trump
crazy,
sense
man.
because it's gaudy. Trump is a grifter. Trump is a grifter and a con man. His biggest con is conning the United States, conning all those maggots and the reptilians that follow him. They know he a con man. They following behind him because they know he gonna throw them a little bit of whatever he receives in his cons. But his mind is going. His mind is going. Did y'all see the video where he was about to walk into the wall? And the other politician had to grab him by his shoulder and turn him around?
I didn't see that.
Oh, Google it. He was literally walking into a marble wall. So I don't know if we have to pray for our country and pray that all of these people that he's befriending are enemies. He's sleeping with the enemy.
Yes. But Sister Toni, if I could, with today being our new name of change, the New Orleans International, meaning we did bring people in from other countries, and we will continue to do and work on that. But let's say in the city of New Orleans or on the internet in general, there's a lot of hoodoo, voodoo out there. And I'm even hearing people saying they can self-initiate or they don't need an initiation. So the question I would like to ask you, how do you feel about that?
Well, basically, I feel like if you going to be a voodoo priest or priestess, you have to be taught those rituals and how to do that. And in your teaching, initiation to me is kind of like a graduation that once they feel you have reached a certain level, then you are initiated. In the realm of hoodoo, to me, hoodoo was more an individual earth thing that everybody kind of did the way they do it. It's kind of like cooking gumbo. Everybody know how to cook gumbo, but everybody cook it a little different, but it still tastes good.
Right.
And that's hoodoo to me. Hoodoo is kind of unorganized. It's based on the individual. And individuals who grow up in families, like you might have 5 sisters or brothers, and they leave out their mama house and they'll carry it on in their house, like some of my kids do today. But voodoo most definitely is going on a more higher plane to me than hoodoo.
Right. The reason I bring that up, at least with NOIVD in our last symposium, they are bringing in scholars, people who are doing research not to debase what nobody else is doing, but they're just trying to give it some backbone with some research and things of that nature. And so this is where the New Orleans International Voodoo is trying to establish. It's not that we're trying to put nobody down or talk bad about nobody. We're just trying to build some decorum. If you're going to be bringing scholars, you might get scholars come in from Brazil, from Cuba, and speak on certain things. And I think that will establish a foundation for the New Orleans Voodoo also, where it's just not haphazard. We do have an outline, a baseline, and we move forward.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Totally agree, Mr. Reggie.
Yes, I say, yes.
And I think even in the practice of voodoo, due to geography and what is available and what is not available, some things might be slightly different.
Yeah.
But the outcome is the same.
Yeah, I see, and I agree.
Some tools might be different, but the outcome is the same.
Yeah, I agree. But the problem is some of the people online, they don't even much want to they don't much want to humble themselves to set under nobody teachings.
Well,
but they go online, read a few things, and then they want to sell products online.
Well, that's just like businessmen wanting to be president. I mean, some people, you just can't tell nothing. And that's why we have so many different things let loose because of people not knowing what they're doing. I'm one who seriously believe that you could FAFO doing some stuff and unleash some stuff.
Okay,
that's not good for our plane. I mean, they make enough horror movies on how silly people release demons into the world and stuff by playing around.
Yeah.
And we know them people who them people always is. They them YTs.
Yes.
What you call them, YTs?
Yeah. Say it 3 times fast.
Yeah. You know, I had to catch up to that initial and also YN. At first, I didn't know what it meant when I seen it online, but now I know what it means.
Yeah, but once somebody tried to sit down and start the conversation, bring everybody together and start the conversation and get to know each other and get to know the how and the why people do these things like this. And you don't do it like that, and we do it like this. Education and learning, once again, you cannot learn from a Voodoo for Dummies book.
Yes.
You cannot learn that. It's not like baking a cake. Read the instructions on the back of the box. No. And the education got to be hands-on.
Yeah. Experience, practice, demonstration.
And
just like you can't learn to be a surgeon online.
No.
Right.
And the beauty is, as we continue to build, and with the temple here, they even offer initiations. And that's, I think that's a good thing, because at least once you get involved, you're learning some structure. And structure can take you a long way. But when you don't want to humble yourself to learn one iota from somebody else, then that's not good in the ATR streets. Because like you're saying, we're dealing with serious energies out here, dark energies, mid-level energies, of course, good energies also. But driving these particular type cars in the ATR, you want a little steering, a little guidance. It don't have to be overboard, but just a little guidance. And we have practitioners here in the city of New Orleans, even online, that's willing to teach, train, show people the way. But a lot of people in which won't humble themselves to that. And
That's
and
right.
I don't understand it. Some of it is they want to not be told anything. They just want to do what they want to do, how they want to do it, and that's it. And that's not a good thing.
If I may say, like you can't do it for likes. You know what I'm saying? You
Okay.
can't do it for followers.
Okay.
It's something that in the spirit that, like for me, it's like in my DNA, you know. But I have a
Mhm.
lot to learn. It's just a journey that I've been on, but now I'm accepting it because it's in my DNA. But I'm not really talking about it, you know. It's kind of like for me, it's like I've been, you know how your kids is outside playing. So I've been outside living my life and playing and just living life outside. But it's like this here is like it's like mama calling me home to come clean up and eat supper. So I gotta go in and I gotta take this serious, like, and I gotta learn this and I gotta take it to heart. So that's why I've already approached my ancestors. I've already approached the Orishas, Eshu, the Orishas, the Loas. I approached them in the spirit of I'm not coming to just for a reading. I'm coming to become reacquainted. And whatever the process is of me learning that, I'm willing to take the process for that. But this is not for fame and glory or for followers or for likes. This is DNA. This is something that's very deep. And it's something that was suppressed and beaten and lynched out of us. But now we're waking up. And like you said, we have to be careful that we don't step over this because it's a process and we have to be processed in this. So yes.
Yeah, Mr. Shahi, right quick. Even though it's in the DNA, I might be biased with this, but I still think there's some form of teaching, someone you can mirror, someone you can see how they're doing it, and you can learn the steps from them, and then you move forward. I just
Yes,
think
sir.
that is so important.
Yes, sir. And that's what I said. I'm totally like new to this, and but it's something that resonates within me and I can feel it. So I'm coming to learn it from people who are, you know, taking it seriously, you know, but it's not for me to be online with it or trying to become the next thing or get followers, you know. So I'm just grateful for the journey and I've accepted it. And so that is my plan to come and actually in person so that I can learn and embrace the journey. Ashe.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Yes. That's it, dude. That's it right there. Yes.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
You got people you can't tell them nothing in life.
Yeah,
And
I
I
know.
bet them same people that you can't tell nothing about learning what voodoo actually is, seeking out a teacher, I bet you in their everyday life you still can't tell them nothing.
Mm.
Until you tell them. Until you tell them the truth.
You could always tell somebody that
They can see the truth.
has a student mentality. They're
Mm-hmm.
willing to learn and read. And I'm gonna tell you, those same people ain't really read nothing because they don't have time to read. The biggest beef I have with black people is they do not read.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Therefore, if they're not reading, they're not doing research. And Sister Toni, you do excellent research. So to read, which leads you to research, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
yeah. They don't, and the phone with the internet and the memes and the gifts and all of that stuff is making it harder and harder. They're reading less and less.
Yep.
It's all by design.
Of course.
I like that. I like that. Yeah.
But since they've gotten so much into getting knowledge off the phones and off the internet, if we was to lose the internet, would they still be seeking out knowledge enough to revert back to books?
I think so, but the younger generation, you would hope that they understand the process of doing research. I grew up in a time where you had encyclopedias and you had to go find the encyclopedia and go, keep a catalog of animals and plants and all types of stuff. And I'm like, man, mammals and it's like amphibians.
I
And then in
mean,
terms of like understanding those things, you have to break those things down to understand them, and that way to find them in those books and texts. But nowadays you can it's so easy to look up anything thanks to AI.
Yeah, you may have to, like with the solar flares that's coming from the sun, you may have to go back to that because the solar flares is going to short circuit. Things are being advanced, so we may have to we got to get back to like, we used to have MapQuest and things like that. We used to have phone books and photo albums and things like that. We may have to get back to retrain our mind to get back to that so that we can start connecting those neural pathways again in our brain. That's why I'm grateful I grew up in the era that I grew up in.
I saw on the internet, I followed the doomsday preppers because I want to know what they doing and what they know. And they were saying that everybody should get a map. Remember those, y'all? The paper map?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
The map. And it's a good idea. And I would advise everybody in our listening area also to get a map and learn how to read a map. For the very reason, like the other panelists was saying, if we get knocked out of internet and electricity, a lot of people gonna be lost, especially me, because I don't have no sense of direction.
Yeah, we gotta get like compasses and stuff like that. We gotta get like CBs and walkie-talkies, and just start, preparing for those things with our, with those that are on that vibration.
Yeah, and you can start getting little stuff that doesn't cost a lot, like a compass, like a map of the United States, a paper map of the United States, like batteries in a transistor radio that cost $5 at Walgreens with some batteries. I mean, they good for emergencies, hurricanes and all of that stuff, and make you a bug out bag where you have all your important information in a backpack. So you could just grab it, sit in the closet and run if you have to.
Yes.
So I advise everybody to go look at what they're doing and how they're doing it.
What is that show? What is that show called again?
Well, it's not, you could just Google Doomsday Preppers, but that was the name of the show.
Okay, Doomsday Preppers. I'm gonna look at that. Thank you.
So it's time for us to leave once again. I will turn it over to the Divine Prince to close us out. It's been a pleasure being with all of you tonight, and we look forward to being with you tomorrow night so we could continue our education, our spiritual journeys. Prince, come on in.
And certainly continue to visit us at www.voodooday.org, www.vodouday.org for more information and coming updates. Please participate, volunteer, join us, donate, sponsor. We certainly appreciate you and your endeavors and your commitment to this historic and legendary event. Until tomorrow night at 9 p.m. U.S. Central Standard Time, remembering that all is truly and indeed a blessing. And no matter what you do, respect the voodoo.
Ashe.
Good night,
Ashe.
everyone.
Peace. Peace, everyone. Mhm.